As an African, have you ever questioned yourself why Africa is always poor? Have you ever questioned yourself why Africa is always regarded as poor? And have you ever questioned yourself why progress in Africa is always stalled? The answer is very simple. In Africa, or as Africans, we consume what we don't produce, and we produce what we don't consume. Africa has always been known to history as a producer of resources, and Africa has always been known to history as a consumer of manufactured goods. We produce raw materials, and these raw materials are transported to foreign countries. These raw materials, once in foreign countries, are used to manufacture products which are then brought to us at higher prices. That is why Africa will forever remain poor, because we produce what we don't consume, and we consume what we don't produce. I always have a problem with African leaders, and I always question why African leaders cannot prioritize some things. I know that in Africa we have the capability of building industries, we have the capability of manufacturing products, and we have the capability of using our own raw materials to manufacture finished products. Yesterday, I read, I don't know whether it is a rumor or it is true, that Ghana is bankrupt. The Ghanaian government has no money. The country is bankrupt. I see this as a very major problem, and I see this as a key failure of leaders in Ghana. Why am I saying that I see this as a failure of leaders in Ghana? We all know that Ghana is one of the global producers of cocoa, and cocoa is always used in making chocolate. With this comparison, I checked to assess what Africa produces, at what cost, and what Africa consumes at what cost. I want to specifically refer to Ghana. Ghana is known as one of the major producers of cocoa in the world. In fact, much of the cocoa that is used in industries in foreign countries such as Germany and the rest come from Ghana. Now, I checked and I found that when you go to Ghana, as of 2021, the price of cocoa in Ghana was projected at $2.4 per kilogram, and the price was estimated to reach $2.5 per kilogram between 2022 and 2024. In 2025, the price was expected to reach $2.6 per kilogram. Now, that is how cocoa is sold in Ghana today. I think it is $2.5 per kilogram today in 2024. That is a kilogram of cocoa. This cocoa is produced as a raw material in Ghana, and then it is taken to overseas for manufacturing chocolate. Cocoa is produced in Ghana as a raw material, then taken overseas as a raw material to manufacture chocolate. Once this chocolate is manufactured, it is brought back to Ghana and sold at $3.5 per kilogram. It is sold between $3.5 and $6.3 per kilogram in 2023. That is wholesale price. Now, we said that when this cocoa is produced in Ghana, it is sold at $2.5 per kilogram. This cocoa is produced in Ghana, then transported to, let me say the United Kingdom or Germany. Taken to the United Kingdom or Germany, then manufactured there, used to manufacture chocolate, then the same product, the manufactured product, is now brought to Ghana, then sold at 6.3 US dollars per kilogram. You can see that is almost 3 times the original value. Almost 3 times the original value. Now Ghana is producing what it doesn't consume and consuming what it doesn't produce at a higher cost. Ghana is a major producer of cocoa, and this cocoa is taken to overseas countries to make chocolate, which is again taken back to Ghana and sold to Ghanaians at a very higher price. This is where my problem lies. If Ghana as a country is a major producer of cocoa, and Ghana as a country supplies cocoa to, let me say, major foreign governments such as Germany, UK, United States, and the rest, why can't the Ghanaian government construct an industry that uses this raw material? Why can't the Ghanaian government construct a factory that manufactures chocolate? Is it impossible? I know it is not impossible. It is very possible. That is where Africans fail, and that is where our leaders fail us. You cannot produce cocoa at $2.5 US dollars and then send this cocoa overseas, and the same cocoa that you produced in your country is sold to you as chocolate 3 times the original price which you used in selling the raw material. The Ghanaian government has a responsibility to construct factories in the country for the manufacture of the likes of chocolate, and this should resonate to other African countries. I also checked on the issue of smartphones. I also checked to find a case about smartphones. Now, just to remind you that chocolate production, chocolate is produced in Germany, Belgium, Italy, Switzerland, and the United States. That means that cocoa from Ghana are taken to these countries, Germany, Belgium, Italy, Switzerland, and the United States. Once manufactured as chocolate, they are being brought back to Ghana, and they sold as at 3 times the original price. I also checked smartphones. You know, smartphones uses specific raw materials, and these raw materials are used in making the screens, making the batteries, electrical units, amplifiers, vibrators, receivers, and casing. Now I checked to find where these materials come from, and one of the key components needed to make these phones, one of the key components which is required to make these phones is the battery. Battery requires lithium, coal, and manganese, and this lithium, coal, and manganese come from none other than, in Africa, only Zimbabwe, which managed to produce 1,000 tons at the privately owned Bikita Minerals raking. Now you can see that lithium, coal, and manganese comes from Africa in Zimbabwe, and when we look at Zimbabwe is not capable of making a smartphone. I also checked the electrical units, which is one of the components of a smartphone. Electrical units require phosphorus, antimony, arsenic, boron, indium, and gallium. They also require copper, gold, and silver. And the countries which are known to produce the largest quantities of these raw materials are Congo and Zambia. Congo and Zambia are African countries, and not forgetting the DRC, Rwanda and Uganda. And also not forgetting South Africa and Zimbabwe. Now we have Zimbabwe, South Africa, Rwanda, Uganda, DRC, Congo and Zambia, the largest producers of phosphorus, antimony, arsenic, boron, indium, gallium, silver, gold and copper. And these components are used in making smartphones. Let us go to the amplifier, vibrators and receiver. These components of the smartphone require gallium, aluminium, zinc and copper. And these products are mainly produced in China, Russia, Rwanda, Burundi and Uganda. Rwanda, Burundi and Uganda are African countries. Casing. When we look at casing requires magnesium, which is produced in China, Brazil, India and the United States. Now, you can see just from the statements that I have given that about, let me say, 60% of these raw materials which are used in manufacturing smartphones come from Africa. African countries dominate the raw materials production required to make smartphones. Then I come to the question, why is Africa not capable of making smartphones if almost half of the raw materials used in making smartphones come from Africa? Why are African countries not capable of making smartphones? Why? That is where the problem lies. Our governments, our leaders are focused on importing these materials. They are focused on selling these our raw materials to other foreign countries. Then let me say, I don't know how much a kilogram of gold costs in Congo, and I don't know how much a kilogram of these other materials cost in these various African countries. But what I am very sure of is that the amount that we use in buying smartphones from Chinese vendors and the rest from these countries selling smartphones is higher than the amount they use to purchase our raw materials. Why can't our leaders construct factories for manufacturing smartphones? Why can't our leaders construct factories to tap these our raw materials and use them to make our own products? That is why Africans suffer, and that is why poverty in Africa, I believe, is always manufactured, because we have leaders with no vision, we have leaders with no priorities, we have leaders without planning skills, we have leaders who are concerned about their pockets, concerned about fulfilling their own interests than focusing on issues that affect citizens directly. Ghana cannot be bankrupt if Ghana is the largest producer of cocoa in the world. Ghana cannot be bankrupt if Ghana produces cocoa used in making chocolate in Germany, Italy, Switzerland and the United States. Ghana cannot be bankrupt if Ghana is one of the major producers of raw materials needed by these foreign governments. There is still more that needs to be done. Our leaders need to do more. Our leaders need to focus on Africa for Africa. And our leaders need to construct industries that will help turn our raw materials into finished products, than sending these raw materials overseas and then buying the finished products at very high prices. Africa needs its own industries, and Africa needs to utilize its own raw materials. That must be done, and our leaders must take up that responsibility.